Hello and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc beef podcast for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan and this is the Grass10 update with Grass10 Manager John Maher. John, there have been huge changes across the country since we spoke last. Some parts of the northwest have got a lot of rain, while other parts of the country in the east and south have got very little. Can you give an update as to what's happening on farms currently?
Yeah, there's huge variation out there. There's parts of the country and they're growing grass over the ditches, parts of the country very wet, parts of the country, particularly in the southern coast and the east coast, who are brown due to the lack of moisture and not growing grass, and suffering from drought and in severe soil moisture deficit. Now, that has changed in the last few days. The rain has arrived this week, albeit slowly, but steady. The rainfall pattern for the week ahead then, or the week, that we're in at the moment, is about 2 inches for the west coast, which they probably don't need. And then the east coast is somewhere about half an inch. So that's the variation is there. It's huge. For a small country, it's massive in terms of grass. You wouldn't think it, but yeah. So those are short, those who are in massive surplus, and those who are dealing with wet conditions, and particularly, I suppose, on heavier land, maybe challenging conditions in terms of grazing. In the month of July, which is the lowest rainfall month of the year, but here we are. That's what we have to play with. It requires different approaches to deal with grass, so that there are some farms, we know from the pasture-based figures that in general, with the exception of the south and east coast, that farms are in surplus grass production. The grass that most animals are grazing is too high. That brings its own challenges then in terms of sward quality going into August. So July is what's known as the clean out month or the clean up month. So you try and get all your paddocks, fields corrected in terms of grass quality, so that when you build grass in August and into September and into October for the autumn, to keep the costs down, you need to be building that on what we call clean swards. Now, for those who bring in silage ground, right, they're naturally clean, and that's a great opportunity. There's no denying that, and you can get away with more grass on those paddocks. I don't deny that. But for grazing swards that have been constantly grazed, dung pad built up, maybe got stressed for different reasons, seed head out, you're trying to get all those clean before you get into August. If I go to the other extreme then, Catherine, I suppose, for those who are parts of, I suppose I'll say, East Cork, Waterford into Wexford, parts of Wicklow, and, I can throw South Kilkenny and South Tipperary and parts of that as well, and, that they are struggling with lack of moisture. Now, that's coming. There will be recovery. Some paddocks will recover exceptionally fast. Some won't. You'll get a sward that just got lacking vigor, dead in itself. The rain will come. You're waiting for it to grow, and it won't. So what you have to do there, you have to actually make it grow. And the way to make it grow is to graze off. Even people who have grazed paddocks in the last 24 or 48 hours see a dramatic shift now, because they've taken off the old sward, the sward that's, stressed, burnt, struggling. That's the one thing with the grass plant. You take off the old, the new will come, and it comes at a reasonable pace, provided that there's moisture and heat there. That's a quick summary now, Catherine, and it varies. I didn't even mention a little bit about people who are trying to farm on heavier land and dealing with difficult ground conditions, but we have to do a few things there too, I suppose. Main tricks of trade there would be strip wires, get on the right grass, graze it, get off. You mightn't get to clean it out as well as you'd like, but if it was good in the first place, given the stage of the season we're at now, that stemming is over, it should hold its quality. The problem is, if you go into the wrong grass, don't get it cleaned off, and leave the wrong stuff behind, you will face that again. And the animal performance will be a lot poorer because you're grazing stemming or dead material. They're the challenges are there. In a quick summary now, Catherine.
I suppose you mentioned the surpluses. In a lot of cases, they have been removed on farms. And in regards to the farms that's in a drought situation, some of those will be grazed now. And then the question comes about what fertiliser to apply depending on the nutrient management plan. What's the advice at this stage in the season, depending on the situation you're in on the farm with regard to fertiliser?
I suppose we'll start with those who are trying to recover, Catherine. They might have stopped spreading fertiliser. Rain has come now. There's a chance to get a bit of fertilizer out and get going again. As I said, some of the swards may not come until they're grazed off, because grazing off stimulates the sward to grow. Getting fertilizer out in those is probably ideal. If you had a compound, that would be my wish, Catherine. Now, you may not have a P allowance, but something like 18612, or after grass going through a stressful period, you'd like to put a bit of PK back into the system if you could. If you don't have a P allowance, which a lot won't, there's products there that have 0P but have nitrogen and K and sulfur, would help a lot. I'm not as concerned about the sulfur now. we're probably past that stage of the season, but getting some K out would help. Some people buy products like sulfate of potash or murate of potash. They have 0P, 0N, and add K to the system, and K is a major player in terms of fertilizers in the second half of the season, dealing with drought, water movement, all that kind of stuff within the plant. A compound based, some people will actually go with a level of slurry or watery slurry. Wouldn't be the worst idea either, to be honest. You see what I'm trying to do. I suppose to move on then to those who are in the surplus situation. Now, this is a bit trickier. So some of the surplus have been removed, Catherine, that's right. A lot of people have made surplus grass into either extra silage, be it pit or bales. The growth rate looks as if it will remain high, so there may be more surplus coming. I would love to correct the paddocks through silage or bales or pit, which have a lot of dung pat in them and need to be corrected and need to be sorted out before we build in grass in August. When I mentioned that, then like every 4 bales to the acre, Catherine, roughly removes 1,000 gallons of slurry, or the equivalent of a bag of 0730. So we need to balance the books there and get compound or slurry back onto paddocks that are taken out of surplus. Otherwise, you're affecting, the ability of the grass plant to grow going forward. If you don't have a P allowance, then slurry is an option, or a chemical P allowance, slurry is an option, or even products like 0.50, or even products like 29.014 or 19.015 that have no P but have a level of nitrogen and have like a level of K in them. If you're on surplus grass, you're going to be more judicious with the fertilizer, which you have to be. There's no point in spreading a whole pile of fertilizer to make more surplus into bales when you have a lot of surplus done already. So low end products would make more sense there, if that makes sense, to keep the swards going without driving them mad altogether. And even watery slurry would probably make more sense. It has a lower level of nitrogen, but it's adding P and K to the system, if that makes sense.
Finally, John, for farmers thinking for the next 2 weeks of July and as we move into August going building covers, what should the 3 actions or the 3 parts of their plan be before we start building covers for the autumn?
The most important thing is to building covers is to have clean swards, because if you don't have clean swards, you're trying to build new grass on top of bad grass, and that will come back to hurt allen performance, particularly if the weather's wet, because they won't graze down as well. So clean swards is the first thing. The next thing then is to go onto a long rotation to build grass as we go from August into September. So, if you try to keep the short rotation short, while you will have short leafy grass and be high quality, you won't build grass going into the autumn. And as we go, the beef animals, they get heavier, their demand for grass increases. The grass that you eat in August, September has higher intake than the grass in July, because it's more leafier, not as much stem. If you are highly stocked or dry, then I think you have to look at using fertilizer to help build grass as well. So they're the 3 things: clean swards, long rotation, and fertilizer where necessary, preferably in August, not September, to build grass, because September is often too late to build grass. For those in surplus, Catherine, I would say as well, maybe there's an opportunity to reseed here, right? If you decide to take out a sward for silage or bales, spray it off beforehand or spray it off afterwards and reseed. The last few years, the ability to reseed has been, compromised because of weather. And I suppose I could also say that there's more money around this year to reinvest in grazing. So things like investing in soil fertility, grazing infrastructure, and particularly reseeding may be worthwhile, especially the silage ground, I would think.
That's great, John. Thanks very much for this month's Grass10 update.
Thanks very much, Catherine.
That's all for this Grass10 update. Further information is available on the weekly Grass10 newsletter. Join me next week for your next Beef Edge podcast. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan, and thanks for listening.